Okay, hey team, welcome in. Hermit is here. We are going to wish thinker or whatever. Uh, make a little chart out of whiteboard material. It had come up on Reddit. Someone asked about tools that people have, and so like this is a tool that I've made before, which is just a little tiny whiteboard wheel that I sharpied house divisions on so they don't come off when I like wipe the whiteboard marker off, but I didn't take the backing off so it can spin freely. And then this is like, I don't have the fasteners, the like gold fasteners that you would use. So I took apart a duotang, and this is like from a duotang, which I'm gonna do again. And then I put it onto this sticky back, same material that I actually removed this part from, and put that all into this journal, which was my journal from May to December of 2023. So this was a lot of fun. I really liked using it. I'm wanting to make a bigger one now. So this is a whiteboard sticky. And then I have some more of the ones that are in like that journal that I was just talking about. And so this one I'm going to keep the backing on. And I'm going to make as big a circle as I can. And then I can mark it out house divisions. And then I will try to fasten it using these like duotane pieces. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. I have some Sharpies here next to my sleeping bambino. Hi baby. We don't want to do it like that. This itself was a whiteboard, but like it won't really come clean very well anymore. It's quite old, and I had been using it to tape my watercolor paper to when I was painting. So she lives on as yet another kind of whiteboard. Oh fuck. Nope. Foolish fool. Oh well. Conveniently, my tape ripped into small. You messed up your craft sizes. Okay, we're just gonna call that good enough. Oh, exactly. Exactly my point. And then we're just gonna snug this in here. Cozy. One thing about the book one is that I didn't have like the top plate in the book one, but still this hardware created like a little dent in all the pages, and while I was writing on like the left cover page, because this is under the left cover, I would like write over the bump. So anyway, maybe add these two journals that are already done that you use as like reference journals and not your active note-taking journal, if that kind of thing would bother you. This is going to act like a washer so that that doesn't have to be too tight. And then I can turn this around. Yay! Okay. Ta-da! Now that it's done, I'm going to show you some of the things that I have enjoyed using this for. Okay, one thing that I found this helpful for is the difference between primary motion and secondary motion, or I think it's diurnal rotation and like zodiacal rotation. So anyway, let's pull up a chart for right now. Ta-da! So the sun is at 0 degrees Taurus right now. And the sun rose in the east, and then it was high noon, and now it's kind of afternoon, and then it will be evening and sunset, and then it will be nighttime. And this is caused by the planets all being like out in space on a disk, basically, because all the planets in our solar system orbit around the sun, like on the same plane, and that is called the ecliptic, I believe. And we, the Earth, are spinning east, and so we're spinning, able to like see the sky tilt overhead as we continuously dive into the east. And so where the sun is, there's a lot of light. There's where all the light is coming from. And so when the sun rises, or when we spin to be able to have the sun within our field of view from where we each individually are on Earth, because for half of us it's daytime and the other half it's nighttime. But for the daytime half, like for a portion of us it's morning, and for like a different portion of people it's high noon, and for a different portion of daytime people it's evening. And this rotation is called primary motion, and it happens every day. And it is the regular cycling of every planet and every sign through every house. That quickly. Sun moved over the cusp of Aries to Taurus today, and that movement, as you can see, from Aries to Taurus is the other way. So primary motion is going clockwise, like if this was 12, 3, 6, 9 o'clock, just like the clock hands move, primary motion is moving. And I believe that's why it's called like clockwise or whatever, because we can like track the hours by like where the sun is or where things are. The sun during the day and the stars at night, and like the other things in the sky. And then the way the planets move in their direct motion and how they move through the zodiac, and we get like different seasons because sun is moving into different zodiac signs, and we get different moon phases because moon is like tracking around the zodiac as well. They're going in the opposite direction. So sun started today at 29 Aries and then moved this way into 0 degrees Taurus, which is counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, the opposite way that you experience everything moving regularly day to day. And that tracking of that motion, that secondary motion, or like through the zodiac, that tracking of that motion lets us know when things are going retrograde, because suddenly the planet is moving in primary motion. So that's primary and secondary direction motion. Hope that is helpful. When people try to explain it online using a chart, I find it very hard to follow like the little sun glyph, because suddenly like it's here, it's here, it's here, and then it's here, and then it just moves, and the angles are moving all the time, and that's very confusing. So it can be nice to just like create this tool and wipe it clean and draw like the sun, and then track it through and get to know the different motion and like how it would move that way. So we can do that together. Like right now, Sun is at 0 degrees Taurus, and Moon is at, is this correct? Moon is at 16 degrees Capricorn. So this is today. And then we can look in a few days. Let's see at the Taurus new moon. And when is that? I'm just peering at my calendar up on the wall. When is the Taurus new moon? On April 28th. And what day is it now? 19? So that's like 10 degrees. So Sun will be, instead of being here, which is where Sun is right now, Sun will be here, which will be 10 degrees. So we'll have moved 10 degrees this way, tracking down and counterclockwise. And then Moon will have moved all the way also to 10 degrees of Taurus by the time we have a new moon. But every day the sun is going to rise and the sun is going to set. This is going to happen every day while this tracking happens over time. Yeah? Daily, seasonal. Okay. That was example 1. What else did I use this for? Another thing I like to use this for was learning about the lots. So the lot of fortune and the lot of spirit are a relationship of like a midpoint between the sun and the moon and the ascendant. So the way you get the lot of fortune is whatever sect light. Okay, whatever sect light it is goes to the ascendant, and whatever sect light it isn't becomes the lot of fortune, and then you reverse that for the lot of spirit. I believe this is how it works because it switches, the rule reverses if you have a day chart or a night chart, but I think this rule works regardless. So like we can check that because I know what my stuff is, and then it's still day. I was born at night, and so it's still daytime right now, so it's a different sect, so I can look at it that way separately. Because I have in my second house, I have a lot of fortune at 19 and my sect light at 22, and then my non-sect light at 3 in the fourth house. Meanwhile, up in the very end of the 11th house, I have my law of spirit. So if I just want to transpose the lot of fortune and the lot of spirit to outside of the part of the chart that I'm going to rotate, what I can do is I can bring my sect light up to the ascendant, and then where the non-sect light is my lot of fortune, and then I can bring my non-sect light up to the ascendant, and where my sect light is the lot of spirit. So now we're going to compare that to the chart that I've got right now, which is, so I'm just going to go somewhere else. Change the house system. Is this not possible? Peter, I want a traditional chart. Okay, on AstroSeek, I'm going to log in. I'm going to go to the current planets. I'm going to get a birth chart for this moment. I'm going to open up a traditional chart for this moment. I'm going to see that I have a 17 degree Virgo ascendant and a 4 degree Gemini, lot of fortune. Okay. And the sun is at, oh, that's interesting. Interesting. The sun is at 0 degrees of Taurus. So this would really be here. And moon is at 16 degrees of Capricorn. And spirit is at 0 degrees of Capricorn. So the sect light that it is the sun, and we're going to put that on the ascendant. And then the sect light that it isn't is going to line up with the lot of fortune. And then the sect light that it isn't is going to go to the ascendant. And then the sect light that it is going to line up with the lot of spirit. Okay, so this is the rule. Does not matter what sect you were born under. Sect light that it is lets the remaining light represent the lot of fortune, and the sect light that it is not lets the sect light that it is represent the lot of spirit. Okay, we just tested it with a night and a day, and it works. Good. So what this led me to understand about sect is that during a new moon, lot of fortune and lot of spirit are both on the ascendant. It does not matter where the lunation is happening, what house or what sign. And so this is true. This is something you can know for people that don't even have a birth time, as long as you can see that, like, oh, you're a new moon baby. The luminaries are together somewhere really, really quite tightly. And you'll know within the closest you could be within 7 degrees of either side of the sun, because if you don't have a birth time, the moon is only within basically half of a sign in any given day. So let's say like sun was here and moon was here. We're going to bring, if you were born in the daytime, we're going to bring the sun to the ascendant, and the moon is right there, which means lot of fortune is right there. And then we're going to bring the moon to the ascendant, and then sun is right there, so that means lot of spirit is right there. And so you can have this sun and moon anywhere in the chart, and the lot of spirit and the lot of fortune are always going to be on the ascendant. And so there's something specific about new moon babies that means, regardless of sect, regardless of daytime or nighttime, a new moon baby, you can know nothing else about them. New moon babies have both their lot of fortune and their lot of spirit together on the ascendant. And these lots, according to a video I watched from Martin Hermes about the 7 hermetic lots, are the general flavors of the fate that you experience with a lot of fortune, and the general flavors of the things that inspire your free will, like sort of action. And so both of these flavors are going to be right on the ascendant. And so I would feel like new moon babies kind of drive their own story a lot of the time, because how do you distinguish, like, from the native, the overall influences in the life that are experienced as happening to me and something inspiring me to do something? Like it's just one entity, and it like is the native. So like that's my piece on the new moon. And then if we had a full moon, we can draw this out and say, let's say the sun was here and the moon was here. Let's say it was daytime, so we're going to bring the sect light that it is daytime, and the sect light that it isn't is going to be here. And then we'll flip that around. The sect light that it isn't is on the ascendant, which means the sect light that it is over on the descendant. And then we can try this at nighttime as well, which is going to be the same thing. Nighttime moon would go to ascendant, so that sun could be representing the lot of fortune, and at nighttime the sun would go to the ascendant, so moon could be representing the lot of spirit, and they are both on the descendant. And so we could maybe, as we surmised with the new moon, we could surmise that the flavor of both the overall fate and like stuff that lands in your lap that you didn't really have anything to bring about, but like now you gotta deal with it. Your lot of fortune, the flavor of your fate, but also the flavor of the things that inspire you to be like, no, I'm gonna go after it because I want to. Like, this is involving my spirit and my free will and my, like, what else am I here for than to go after these things that I want, or I desire, or I aspire to. And they're all going to be wrapped up within the experience of relationships with a full moon baby, because both of these significators are going to line up directly with the descendant. So that is my 2 cents about lots. This is the handy rule. The lot of fortune is the sect light is brought to the ascendant. The remaining light is always the lot of fortune. The non-sect light is brought to the ascendant. The remaining light is the lot of spirit. Okay. Okay, finally, one thing that I really liked my little journal chart for, and that I'm going to do now, is trying to like suss out a good electional chart. Again, you can filter through a bunch of dates with software, or you can like mentally do it, which is always a good exercise, but also tiring. And I just really like having the visual and being able to like make mistakes and make notes on the inside and the outside of the chart and like see what is important. So again, I'm going to pull up the chart that we have right now, and then go from there. So I'm not going to use my current ascendant and MC. I'm just going to look at where the planets are and then start turning them to see, like, if I had to do something today, basically, when would I want to do it? Like, what would be the most auspicious time based on like the parameters that I have, which is for this instance today. And so what I have right now is I've got a 26-degree Virgo south node, and that doesn't count. And I have a 16-degree Capricorn moon. Venus and Saturn and the North Node are up in Pisces. And then, oh, I've got Pluto here. Sorry, I'm still looking at the traditional chart. I think he's at 5 now. And then we have Neptune and Mercury and Chiron in Aries. And then up in Taurus we have 0-degree Sun, and what are we, 25 degrees for Uranus. Gemini has a 19-degree Jupiter. Cancer is empty, yay! Leo has a 0-degree Mars, and that is everybody. Okay, so what like are the rules of having a good election? Is that you want to have, if you can, Mars and Saturn bona fide in any kind of way, and if they can't be bona fide, you want to throw them into the 12th or like the 8th or the 6th houses. And because of the relationship that these two planets are having, that's not possible for me to have both. Like, if Mars is in the 12th house, then Saturn's in the 7th. if if Saturn's in the 8th, Mars is in the 1st, right? If Saturn's in the 6th, Mars is in the 11th. So, you know, what would happen if we put Mars in the 6th in his joy? Saturn would be on the 1st, which is like not ideal. We don't really want Saturn there for an election. So we know right away that we can't have both malefics in aversion. So then we can just take a peek and see who seems to be doing better overall as a planet. And so we can compare Mars, who is at 0 degrees Leo, squaring his ruler sun at 0 degrees Taurus. So the square is something to look at. And then how is the sun doing in Taurus? Well, Sun is being resourced by Venus, who is tired. She's not loving life. Um, if any planet is like cool with a square, it would be Mars, but Mars is also friggin' tired because he's coming out of a post retrograde and he's still going kind of slow from that. And he was just in Cancer, the sign of his fall, forever. And so, yes, he's out of Cancer now, but like this is the time of recuperation, not of like, okay, let's like push through for some action. And so, this is a little bit tight, don't love this, as well as Mars is applying to a third and final Pluto opposition while being in this kind of T square with the Sun. So this is, we'll say, tense to say the least. And then we can compare to Saturn and see how is Saturn doing. Saturn is at 26-ish degrees of Pisces. He's in his pre-shadow for retrograde, which is a less of a big deal than Mars. Mars does this every 2 years. Saturn does it every year. So it's a much different vibe. And like we can talk about the Saturn Venus stuff later. But this is what's going on. We're in the pre shadow, so Saturn will be here again. So that's just something to take note of. He's not free and clear in a narrow part of the zodiac where he's not going to retrograde over. He will be here again. But we're going to move into Aries on May 24th. And so this is the sign of Saturn's fall. So like if I didn't have to do this election today, if I could wait, the longer I wait, the worse it's going to be for Saturn because he's going to move into Aries. And the longer I wait, the better it's going to be for Mars because he's going to be picking up speed, moving further away from Cancer, further out of and like through this opposition to Pluto and then out of the retrograde path. And then he'll be free and then he'll be in a new sign and then he'll be doing good. But as to how they're doing right now, well, Saturn is in Pisces, squaring his ruler Jupiter, who himself is in some kind of fall, and is sextiling his ruler Mercury, who's in Aries. So between these two, who do I think is doing better? Well, I mean, let's also look at sect, right? Because if Mars in a fire sign was in the daytime, what would that look like? Or what's the best case scenario? And Mars in a fire sign at nighttime would mean that at nighttime, Saturn is in a water sign, which is like not best case scenario either. So that's interesting because Mars is going to be, if we take away Mars's extreme power in the daytime, maybe he wants to have a tantrum because he's sick of this retrograde nonsense. So we're like, okay, we'll go into the nighttime. Well, now Saturn, cold, slow Saturn, is going to be even colder and slower because he's in a water sign. It's like really gonna drag. So we might want Saturn in the daytime, but then Mars is in the daytime and he might be extreme and like have a little bit of a temper. up in Leo and like want some attention about it. So it would also depend what you're doing. Do you want some attention, or are you trying to like give something some attention? Or are you trying to give something like a really measured, like, let's do another check, like let's go over it again? Or are you like chomping at the bit, ready to go, right? So it would depend on what you're trying to do. But ignoring all that, like I hope I'm not very good at elections. I don't know if I made that apparent. But like let's say we wanted the moon on the ascendant, and then where is the moon's ruler? Saturn would be in the third house in a night chart, which like isn't ideal because now Saturn is the greater malefic, but he's square to his ruler Jupiter in the sixth house. And this sextile from the ascendant would be quite nice. And Saturn would be cadent, which would take up, like, he's already kind of a downer, and so this would just put that downer energy into like daily stuff that is like already kind of a time suck, like whatever. It would mesh really well. As well, Venus is like doing a final pep talk on this 25 to 2 degrees, 25 Pisces to 2 degrees Aries, to be like, okay, like remember what I told you about patience and about compassion, because Saturn is about to do his retrograde here. Um, so it would feel like whatever you were starting with the moon on the ascendant at this time, you would be working on it for a while, or like thinking or talking about it for a while, building the plans for a while. And then let's say we wanted to have Sun on the ascendant, Sun at 0 degrees Taurus. How is Sun doing? What would this election look like? The ruler of the Sun would be up in the 11th house of good fortune, so that would be fantastic. And this is Venus. Venus is at 25 degrees. What is her aspects that she's making? She's making a square to Uranus and a conjunction to Saturn, the third and final conjunction. So maybe whatever has been worked on in her previous two conjunctions with Saturn, like this time it would stick because of that third and final conjunction with Saturn. I keep saying with Saturn like in a certain lilt as if I am a robot, so apologies. But maybe this would also be like sudden or authentic, or like the final piece in whatever action we've been taking. With the 0 degrees Taurus, like you put into action, or you're setting into like a value system and a priority that is truly authentic, and it's not going to budge. And this would be 11th house good fortune, so like that could look pretty nice, you know? And then what would be the downfall here? So at 0 degrees Taurus, this would be now a daytime chart. And so this is good because it warms up Saturn a little bit, so he's not as cold and as slow as he would be at night, and he becomes a more moderate actor. And the most extreme planet in the chart becomes Mars, who is down in the fourth house. And so that could be anticipated that this square to Mars in Mars's own aspect would, you know, if we're becoming authentic or setting into some like personal value or principle of authenticity, that might ruffle some feathers at home and require some people to be like, okay, like we've seen this coming because this isn't new ground for Mars, but we're about to be in new ground, so like how do we move forward with the best amount of like momentum to keep it going, because these are both in fixed signs, right? And then where would the greater benefic be if the sun was on the ascendant in this election? In the second house, supporting the first house. And Jupiter in the second is always nice. So if this was an election and I was trying to pick between, I didn't have an obvious pick between what the election should be because of where the malefics like could be tucked away safely. So then let's just try the luminaries just for fun, and trying the moon on the ascendant. I don't like that as much as trying the sun on the ascendant. There's a more difficult aspect here with the square to Saturn, or sorry, the square to Mars. But otherwise, I feel like it looks pretty beneficial for starting some kind of like authentic endeavor. So yeah, that is the other way to use this fun little chart, because as soon as you're like, okay, well, what if I put Mars on the ascendant? And then you look and see where everybody else is, or it depends what you want to do. Maybe you want to do something with your friends, and so you want Venus up in the 11th house, or you're trying to like really impress your partner. So you want Mars on the 7th house. Well, like who's then on the first house? Well, Pluto. Is that what you want to lead with? Pluto in the first house? Like, how impressed does your partner need to be? Maybe Mars is not the planet to focus on for that kind of impressive election at this time. So then, maybe Jupiter. And then where does everybody else go if Jupiter's on the descendant, on the 7th house, like main angle that we care about? And so on and so forth. So, yeah, that is my fun with this tool.